Blizzard are trying to fix a huge leveling problem, and that really matters. Leveling in WoW has always been special. For many of us in the vanilla days, it was basically the entire game. People still often love it today, but there's a major exception, and that is the last 10 levels. Because since Shadowlands is squish, the game has followed the same formula. Getting to the previous expansion's level cap is lightning fast, but then the last 10 levels are always grueling, almost depressing, if you have to do them again and again and again and again. But XP is not the whole story. It's not just the XP. It's also more about what you can actually do to get those last 10 levels. And now, thankfully, years later, Blizzard has an idea to fix the problem. Now, if you don't want to learn about coding, you're not into games, just skip this. But if you're still here, well, the good news is that today's sponsor, Boot.dev, was built specifically for us by, of course, a big fellow gamer. And Boot is actually more relevant than ever. You see, what they do is they teach back-end development. That's the kind of thing that lands you those 100K plus jobs, but they do it through a structured, self-paced program that's designed to be around 12 months. It's extremely in-depth, and it's structured like an RPG. Leaderboards, achievements, quests, big Discord community that actually helps, and crazy stats when it comes to just the amount of users that they've got and how well their platform's been doing. Now, they teach you Python, TypeScript, Go, all of that, and it's all from the fundamentals up. That includes portfolio projects, things like building a Pokedex. It's all really cool. Now, from my side of things, I did a BEng computer science, that's C++ and C# game engine-y stuff, which is a fairly different world to web dev. That's why Boot's really useful to me. And their teaching approach, I'd say, is incalculably better than anything that I really got at uni. It's just far more hands-on and really thorough. And here's the thing. With the Claude codes and the cursors, which honestly are kind of addicting and fun, well, they're only as good as the person who's using them. And what Boot teaches you is the fundamentals that separate a serious engineer from just someone who's generating a bunch of code that they don't understand, that may be cool, but maybe won't work or maybe won't be secure. So if you're serious about getting real engineering skills, this is for you. And hell, their new Training Grounds feature even generates personalized problems based on what has challenged you as you've been doing things on Boot, all with spaced repetition baked in. It's goddamn gigabrain. And you'll get 25% off your first purchase at boot.dev/Bellular. You'll save the most on an annual sub, and if you're not happy, don't worry, they will refund you on the spot. Thanks to them for sponsoring. From 10 to 80, you're free. You can pick any expansion to level in, or just zoom through dungeons, while your low-level scaling basically makes the whole thing easy. If you're after just pure speed, you can do Dragonflight questing, which allows for insanely fast leveling, but generally speaking, 10 through 80 is the fun bit. You're getting levels every few minutes, it's mad, you're getting new abilities and new talents, you're seeing so much progress, and if you get bored where you are, you can go someone else. You can get creative, you can mix and match routes, like say following characters or racial stories over the expansions. That freedom is almost too much at times, but it then gets taken away as soon as you hit level 80. And when you hit 80 in Midnight, it's straight into the campaign. And first time round, it's all fairly great. New content, right? But then the problem is every time after that. And I'm sure you've been there. You want to level an alt, but the prospect of it just ends up feeling a bit miserable. It sure is a lot faster because you can skip cutscenes, you know where to go, but it's a bit mind-numbing. And we're all used to a world where most of the new patch features are only for max level characters, and blasting through the main quests ends up always just being the fastest way to level by a country mile. And sure, there are side quests as one option, but there aren't all that many compared to all the leveling you can do, and your main will usually do most of them early on for XP and renown anyway, and that leaves your first alt with not a lot of fresh stuff to do. Now there's a 5% warband buff, that's welcome but a drop in the bucket. And it doesn't change the fact you're doing something that could be profoundly boring. Now obviously time walking can cycle in. Blizzard run turbulent timeways every few months to speed things along, but it doesn't change the fundamental design, where leveling in a new expansion just ends up kind of sucking when you have to do it on alts. Now people have found ways to make this a bit easier and less frustrating with Midnight. You can do a combination of delves, crafting, and some smart routing. And here's where things get interesting. Blizzard have paid attention to that, and I think they've actually taken it to heart. Because in 1207's PTR, they have shipped some crucial changes which will help fix the core of alt leveling. We've tested them, and I can tell you this. Blizzard are getting close to solving leveling for good. If you read the patch notes, you might not think that this is a big deal. It's only one little line that no one really drew attention to. It says they've significantly increased experience from some quests, specifically Delver's Call, Midnight Dungeon quests, Prey, and Weekly Renown. But when Blizzard says significantly, it's actually a big understatement. Yeah, it's more significant than significant. So they clearly have a new vision for a new style of leveling, and it's a fairly radical one. It's one where you can actually play the content instead of repeating the same boring campaign over and over again. And I'm happy to say the biggest change is in the prey system. You see, finishing a hunt used to give you maybe a few quests worth of XP at most, but now it's very different. When you include the XP from mobs and the Prey World Quest, it's almost half a level. Half a level for somewhere between 7 and 8 minutes of work. And this is not Blizzard accidentally overshooting either. The Delver's Call quests were already one of the best ways to level up. 10 are available, and right now each gives you about a quarter of a level. So that's 2.5 levels for finishing every delve once. And it's going to be very different in 1207, because in 1207, that's now up to about 3.5 levels. And with War Mode hand-ins, you could get 3.7 levels in total. Now, on top of the Delve Mob XP, just clearing all the delves once is almost half of your leveling journey done. Now, the last meaningful change is to the Renown activities. In each zone, there's a weekly burst of Renown. You've got the Runestone quest in Eversong for the Soiree, there's Harandar's Legends, the Stormarian Assault in Voidstorm, and Zalaman's Dun-Dun's Abundance stuff. Now, those used to be kind of unofficially max level only activities. You could do them while you were leveling, but it would pretty much be a waste of time because you'd miss out on the gear rewards for your main, and you'd get very little in return. Now they have been massively buffed, and finishing them nets you about 1/3 of a level each. And that means that these are now the fastest sources of XP by far. And I think Blizzard's vision here is quite realistic, because it tickles the part of the brain that, well, wants to be tickled by an RPG, and that is being efficient. And it goes beyond just the XP too. Bear with me here. Midnight gearing is crazy fast, right? I mean, I don't know about you, but Prey and the weeklies very quickly stopped being rewarding enough to bother with. Unless you say wanted a specific renown reward, they became irrelevant quite quickly for gear on our mains. What if, though, while you were getting that XP bar up, you were also getting all of those other bars up as well? And that's the cool thing. With these changes, you can actually stack Renown progress and XP progress. Now, you could already do some of that with the side quests, but they're just one and done things. In 1207, you'll be able to get about a level a week for free by just logging in to a different character to do your Renown weeklies. If you include your, say, 4 Prey to satisfy the rather insatiable Astalor, then that's closer to 3 whole levels. And in this new world, even if you're not in a big rush to get all your alts maxed up, you'll be able to just play these elements of the game, progress things that are account-wide, like your Renowns and getting your Voidlight Marl and all of that, and while you do that, you'll get a stack of level 90s over the course of the season just by doing things you're probably doing already. Pretty cool. But if you find yourself in a rush and you need an alt fast, this opens up new strategies for less tedious and even faster leveling. So, the current speed leveling strategy looks a little bit like this. At level 80, you can go and do all of the Delver's Call quests. You complete them, but you don't yet hand them in. After that, you follow an optimized questing route, and once you hit a certain breakpoint, which is around level 87, you're basically done, because then you just turn in all your Delver Call quests. That'll basically get you to level 89, and then you use your first craft bonus XP to get the rest of the way. It's super quick. But with 1207's changes, you could replace the questing part in its entirety. So the start will be the same. You bank up your Delver's Call quests, but instead of just spamming a bunch of quests, the next step is to do Prey until about level 86. Now, depending on how fast you are, your Warband XP bonus, and how much XP that you acquire while you're doing your hunts, then that should take you between 8 and 12 Prey hunts at about, say, 10 minutes each, maybe 15 if you're playing leisurely, or 20, whatever. But if you're going fast, that could be well under 2 hours. And remember, the closer you are to level 90, because of scaling, the weaker you get. So Prey in the mid-80s are really a total breeze. And then that means that at level 86, you can turn in all your Delver's Calls, and then you can craft your way up to level 90. It's so goddamn fast. Now, we'll have to work on final values and do a full test run because obviously PTR is volatile, things may change. It might be worth it to fit in some of the weekly quests as well, but some of them do rely on others to be fast, like say the runestones. But so far though, these leveling changes really do bring at least some of that freedom of the level 1 through 80 process back, where if you just want to go and do a bunch of prey to get some of that, the prey rewards and the anguish currency, well, you can do that while also leveling your alts, and that's great. Now, there is a notable exception, and that's the dungeon quests. These have went from 7% of a level each to 14%. I guess Blizzard don't really want people to level via dungeons, because if they did, they would double or even triple that again to make it worth the time compared to the other things I've covered so far. And, well, while there is plenty of good stuff with the prey and the weekly quests, there are things Blizzard are missing, and they're pretty huge opportunities. As much as today's news is good, Blizzard are actually behind. They are 2 patches behind themselves, actually. And that's because, despite being available for under level 90 characters, Void Assaults only give a pittance of XP. They don't even drop field accolades, which are the main currency you'll care about, until you're at max level. So it's clear then that Blizzard wants you to have freedom to level up how you want, and it's great you can do that with the likes of Prey, but why not the Void Assaults? I mean, they're still going to be a relevant feature in 1207. So Blizzard are doing great work here, but they're leaving so much on the table. And new features like Void Assaults would be perfect for that MMO gamer brain stacking reward thing that they are making great in other aspects of this patch. And I really do mean that. For so many players who are like Raiders or Mythic Plusers and don't really engage in the world content for, say, gear, well, they can engage in world content for leveling up new alts. And if the Void Assaults were to allow them to do that, then the likes of 1205 and 1207 would feel like they have more content to people who don't do world content as their main thing at endgame. But it's not just the Void Assaults, because even the shiny new stuff in 1207 could work. The showdowns are coming along with world tiers. This is basically the really cool stuff that you do in these 2 basically distant planets that we last visited in the Legion expansion. It's really, really cool. But the issue is that they're coming kind of late in the season, which means that a ton of the gear rewards are completely wasted on max level characters. And if you've been playing a ton, they're not much use beyond just some novelty. Now, if you like them, that's one thing, and maybe you like them so you want to grind out all the cosmetic rewards. And Blizzard are just so missing out on something that will compound amazingly for them. So imagine this right, you're playing the normal world tier and it scales down to level 80, meaning that it should offer enough XP and you can level. If that's the case, then people will be leveling their characters in it. That will keep those new areas populated with characters. And then at the same time, flicking on the heroic tier, people could play around with those new characters they've leveled, max them out, and maybe set themselves up for the next season. Basically, it would let us do the new content and cycle in fresh characters at the same time. That's more novelty, it's more progress, and it would let people play different specs, different classes, things like that, quite a bit more. It would be great for novelty. Now, obviously, Blizzard just giving us more XP doesn't solve every leveling problem in the game. Content still has to be fun, and the experience we all feel of getting drastically weaker as we level probably needs to change as well. Though admittedly, that's a really hard problem to solve per the numbers without doing some pretty heavy-handed scaling stuff. And it's been a thorn in our side for years now, and it's all because of how they handle power scaling across an expansion. And that's not to mention Hero and Apex talents, which aren't necessarily the most exciting level up rewards. But still, Blizzard are taking this one step at a time, and 1207's changes do prove that, well, they are looking in the right place, and I think this will make the game way better for people. And on top of that, Turbulent Timeways is coming back in this patch. Turbulent Timeways does come along with some XP buff stuff, so you'll be able to have your XP buffs apply to all the stuff that I talked about in this video. Pretty wild. We're going to have a lot of max level characters. Now, there's another thing going on. Rumors of the Skyborn, of new elves from a different place, and of Northrun. It's all about Classic Plus. It's becoming unignorable, especially when Blizzard, deleted the evidence. So yeah, check all that out in this video next.